Good morning. We're
Good morning.
changing our venue a little bit.
And we're still moving things around. We need to move this just a little.
Alrighty.
Instead of moving tin toys and drinky birds, it's moving computers and scrambling.
But it's still, this is now Bridge to a Better World. I'm still Teresa Mitchell, and this is still Ani Haynes.
It surely is now.
And it's all of Ani Haynes. And we have visitors, so we switched rooms. And I'm just going to get right down to the thick of things. Former President Donald J. Trump appeared in federal court in Washington on Thursday for the first time to face charges that he conspired to remain in office despite his 2020 election loss, pleading not guilty at a hearing conducted in the shadow of the Capitol, where his supporters, fueled by his lies, had rampaged to block the peaceful transfer of power. That's the New York Times take on it. They say Mr. Trump was booked and fingerprinted before entering the courtroom and offering a soft-spoken not guilty to each of the 4 counts lodged against him on Tuesday by Jack Smith, the special counsel. He was allowed to leave court without paying any bail or agreeing to any travel restrictions. A first pretrial hearing was set for August 28th. And when I read that, you might have said, wait a minute, this is not his first. It's not the first time. And it's not the first time he's been indicted, but it is the first time he's been indicted for trying to overthrow democracy. And so that's why I was so excited to see that go through. It's been 2.5 years, and that's been plenty of time, I think, to gather all of the evidence to allow the committees to have their say, et cetera. And so my big question is, what will the Supreme Court do? Might be a shocking thought, but if you think about it, well, way back when they got involved to press forward with the election of a Republican president. And despite what they said at the time, it's pretty clear in retrospect, they just wanted to make sure that they had a Republican president. And that's my question. Will the Supreme Court intervene to stop the trial of Donald Trump for attempting to overthrow the election? And it may seem far-fetched now, but it was shocking in 2000 when Gore won the election by a few thousand votes. And the Supreme Court decided for no real reason that they would throw the election to Bush. As then Justice John Paul Stevens recorded in his dissent, counting every legally cast vote cannot constitute irreparable harm. But that was what the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice pretended was going down, that there would just be irreparable harm if an arbitrary deadline were passed. Well, it was not entirely arbitrary, but it was certainly extendable. So rather than extending the deadline and counting all the votes, the Supreme Court decided, well, because there's a question and because there's one way we can look at it in which, according to a counting process that was impinged upon by, well, the Brooke Brothers riots, for example, the riot in which men in suits jumped up and shouted at the people who were counting the votes. Despite the fact, really, that they knew that Bush had lost, Bush won. And so it would have constituted irreparable harm to Bush election, I suppose. And so it is now history that despite winning Florida and the nation in the presidential contest, President Gore went on to be the loser, and we got weapons of mass destruction, Bush the lesser. And if you're thinking that was due to a very close contest and can't happen now, I'd like to remind you that polls are showing that Americans, incredibly, are split 43% to 43% over choosing Biden or Bush. Biden or Trump.
Biden or Bush, yeah, right. I almost wish it were Bush, right? That's how far down the rabbit hole we've gotten. I don't really wish it was Bush. I don't really wish it was Biden either. And I think that honestly, that polling is so close should really ring alarm bells to any Democrat that is thinking in the Democratic leadership. And unfortunately, they've proven time and time again that the leadership of the party doesn't think. Their thinking is in strange strategies that will continuously prop up the super rich, will continuously prop up the corporations, and aren't particularly good for the people. It is, in fact, the progressives of the Democratic Party that should be listened to, that should really come into um, once they come into their own. And God knows they're trying to, if only the leadership would get off their necks. I think it's an interesting split in the Democratic Party. I think it's really hard to work up a lot of enthusiasm for Biden at this point. He does not seem to, how do we say, hold the progressive promise that we so need, we so want. Yes, there has been some debt relief. It's been very slow coming. He's gone back on the drilling in Alaska and opening up new lands to oil exploration. He's gone back on many of those promises that the planet needs him to keep. That said, yeah, he's also done some really good things, more than I was expecting. But is that, it's like, wow, he's not Trump. Is that the resounding battle cry that we're going to enter the next election with? Hey, he's better than the other guy.
I think so, because he really represents the corporations, and he stands up for the corporations. And though the planet is burning, that's really not his concern. He wants to get reelected, and that means kissing up to big oil. So the choice that is officially being presented to us right now is big oil, one way or the other. And you can be sure that a Trump administration would be well, actually, they've made it very clear that they would be wildly pro big oil. So as the temperatures come in, as the temperature readings come in, and we know that Antarctica and the southern cone in general is experiencing bizarrely high temperatures, there have been changes in science that will affect our lives. For example, a room temperature ambient pressure superconductor has apparently arrived just in time for a Nobel Prize, or not. Verification is still in progress. The material itself is a variation of a well-known chemical called lead apatite. Apatites are classes of chemicals that form similar crystal structures. This particular version is primarily composed of lead and phosphate groups. All of its constituents are cheap and readily available. So, what about that? In the meantime, from SciTech Daily, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, for people that might not be following what superconductors do and why this is, gee whiz, really good news, what does it mean?
It means that
I asked this because I asked her to explain it to me yesterday, because I'm like, that sounds really cool.
It means
what does it mean?
Products can be made, if this can be broadly manufactured, products can be made without electrical resistance. And most of the power that is drawn, for example, in your laptop is electrical resistance. Levitation trains use a tremendous amount of power to operate, but if they have a room temperature superconductor, they'll be cheaper than using rails eventually. At the same time, materials possessing both strength and lightness have the potential to enhance everything from automobiles to body armor, but usually the two qualities are mutually exclusive. But according to SciTech Daily, researchers at the University of Connecticut, along with their collaborators, have now crafted an incredibly strong yet lightweight material. Surprisingly, they achieved this using two unexpected building blocks, DNA and glass. For the given density, the material scientist at University Connecticut, Lee, says our material is the strongest known, and they'll have they have put the details on July 19th in Cell Reports Physical Science, because who was expecting DNA to jump up in the stronger than steel race? So great weirdness is coming forward. At the same time, we face these mounting temperatures, this global ecological and climate disaster, and the looming fascism of President Trump's furious supporters. They believe that all of these trials are just nonsense, and which is, of course, what Trump tells them. They believe what Trump tells them because they want to believe that there is some reason other than their whiteness that they can go on being the recipients of white supremacy. And that's what it really boils down to. That's what it's all about. White supremacy is on the march again. And we'll see what happens with this trial, and would not be at all surprised to see that the Supreme Court decides to take an interest. And I certainly hope that they do not. And As I said, we have visitors today, and so I'm cutting things short and shorter than short. And that's all that I have to say for my little report today. But fortunately, Ani has been looking at her tarot cards and has something to say about that.
Indeedly, I do. And here's what I have to say about that. Yes, and a rather truncated show. But
Good
here we
morning,
are.
John. Good morning, Fish.
And here's what we have. So it is a different deck, I have to admit. I will be remiss in not saying that this is the Paulina Tarot deck. It's a really beautiful deck for those that are not familiar. And here's what I drew. This week's community tarot is the Nine of Cups, the Four of Swords, and the Magician. And what does this all mean? The Four of Swords is indicating that you have, in fact, faced some challenges recently, and I think that's always a pretty safe bet to say, right? But this is the time that you're able to sort of let the dust settle and move forward. It's time to sort of, and then move forward. It's a lot of self care. It's a lot of resting. It's a lot of assessing of where you hurt, and if so, what do you need to do about that? And taking care of yourself, being good to your heart, being good to your mind. You might be a little battle fatigued, and that's okay. Just rest, regroup, and there we go. Just be kind as you let the dust settle from recent conflicts.
Hi, Jabara.
And then we have also, the Nine of Cups, which really indicates that you're in a good place now. That moving forward from the conflict is working for you. As the dust settles, it's time to sort of appraise where things are going, where you're at. It's a card that indicates patience because things are unfolding and in a very good way. It is a card of kind of wish fulfillment. It's you've put a lot of work into making things good for you, and it's coming together. So again, a call for patience, rest, self-care, and this one actually points to enjoyment as well. And the Magician, one of my favorite cards in any deck, and the Magician really talks about being in our power. So again, as you're resting and reflecting and readying yourself to move forward, make sure that you are grounded and centered in your power, because in fact you can achieve just about anything when you are. We are powerful people, and when we tap into our subconscious, when we tap into our connectedness, when we are grounded in our strength, in our truth, we can achieve really, really fantastic things, far greater than we have than we think we can, when we are thinking with our limited minds, when we are thinking from an ungrounded, uncentered space, when we are just sort of chasing dreams and windmills and hoping for the best, or scrapping and getting through the conflicts, all of that. It's sort of the call to, yeah, be true to yourself, be centered, be grounded, and you can do a lot. You can do amazing things because you are acting with the strength of the universe. You are acting in concert with the universe when you are grounded, when you are centered, and when you're connected to yourself, the earth, and each other. So rest, recuperate, and manifest. Do great things. And that is my reading for the week.
That was quick.
Like I said, it is a truncated show between visitors, doctor's appointments, and all manner of things. But we wanted to be with you this morning because this time is very special to us, and we love to make the connection every week. We hope, I hope also that you had a fantastic Lammas. Lammas was this week on, excuse me, Tuesday, Wednesday, depending. Some people celebrate it on the first, some people celebrate it on the second. But whenever you celebrate, it is the festival of the first fruits. It's the festival, the first of the harvest festivals. And so it has everything to do with that shift into, look, the days are getting noticeably shorter. We need to put aside differences, reach out and embrace our communities, and start sort of thinking about what we need to get through darker times, colder times, times when we sometimes isolate, maintain those connections, feast with each other, and know that we do get back what we put out. Just as I think some other book says, "Just as you sow, so shall you reap." That has been a common thread in many spiritual paths, many religions, many spiritual paths, and it's certainly one of the meanings of the harvest festivals. What you put out, you do bring into your life. So make it good, make it connected, and love each other and enjoy the fruits of our labors as they come in now. So that's what I have.
All right, then I guess we'll see you next week. Our love goes out to you and to all the ships at sea.
Take good care.